This is Centaur II by Bally, came out in the early 80s. And it came out in two formats. Came out as Centaur I with a standard back glass upright cabinet. But then Bally made these rapid fires that failed miserably, and they converted some games like 8-Ball Deluxe and Centaur to this cabinet style because they had a lot of these in stock and they needed to get rid of them. So I figured, why not? It's a good way to sell off cabinets that they otherwise were not going to use. The problem is that collectors hate this cabinet style. They like the Centaur I, the more traditional look and feel. The game is otherwise identical. It plays exactly the same. All the features are the same. The voicing is the same. Everything's the same except for this upright portion of the cabinet. So I got thinking, and by the way, Centaur IIs are worth probably, I don't know, half of what a Centaur I is. So I thought, why can't we remove this lower cabinet, repurpose the bottom cabinet, and with the new back box, turn it into a regular Centaur, or Centaur I as people call it. It's actually just Centaur. So it doesn't look that difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. I don't know what the paint scheme is underneath, but I suspect it's probably the paint is there. Don't know. We'll have to find out. And then just take all the boards and the wiring and adapt it to the full upsize back box. The only thing that comes to mind that'll be problematic is wiring harnesses. They may not be long enough to accommodate the positioning of the boards in a full-size cabinet, because this is kind of what you're dealing with. Also, the position of the displays is different. Here is a Centaur I, or a regular Centaur, with the full-size back box. So you can see that the lower cabinet looks to be identical on the Centaur II, but I won't know until I get it all apart. I probably will be missing the neck, but that's just 4 pieces of wood. And then, of course, the back box. And then we just have to reposition all the wiring and maybe extend the wiring to get it into this format that everybody seems to prefer. And, you know, just as a side note, I don't really get the reason why people don't like the Centaur II. It is exactly the same game. It plays identical. It does everything exactly the same. It just looks funky. It's kind of like having a really nice girlfriend that does all the right things, but she's got a wart. What do you do? Well, we're going to remove that wart. Top off the back box. That's sitting over here. And the playfield out. And I'm going to try and take this portion of the back box off the lower cabinet and see if we can reuse the lower cabinet and then just abandon this and build it back up into a standard back box frame. So I removed the lower portion of the back box. There's the head. That just unbolts. That's where all the boards are. This is the portion that went where the cabinet, where you can see the memory mark, where the wood was not painted. Now, that's really unfortunate. I was hoping that this was black, but since the cabinet's black, it's not really a big deal. We can do a little touch up. But the main thing is, look at the side rails, how they're cut. That presents another problem. Also, we need a piece of wood to go across here, and we do need the neck. But other than that, I think we can fit a back box clean on. So, how did I get this off? How easy did this come off? Well, I had to, besides removing the screws, had to use a pry bar to get in between the cabinet, because you can see right here, they nailed it too. There's some nails, and there's some back there also. So it didn't come off quite as cleanly as I would have liked, but it's basically in one piece. Now, admittedly, I did have to kind of put it back together because the sides wanted to de-seam here. So I re-glued it and re-screwed it, and I can touch up the black paint. The only reason I'm worrying about that is if I ever wanted to go back and make this a Centaur II again, you know, I guess there's hope we could do that. But so far, it is looking promising. The side rail dilemma really isn't that big of a deal. I have side rails from another cabinet. And you can actually buy these side rails brand new from Pinball Life. But you can see on original games, if I line up the flipper button, they go way back. They were clearly cut for the Centaur II cabinet. You can see how much they were cut. I got to get the side rails off, and while I'm doing that, I took some body filler and filled in the extra nail holes and bolts that are not needed for Centaur I. But anyways, I'm using this tool again, and I'm getting underneath, and then I get the nails out. They're called twist nails, just enough so that the head is exposed. And I take this guy here, and I grab the nail, and it's kind of hard to do one-handed, but I grab it, and I can pull it out. And let me show you the nail. That's what they look like. Save them, unless you have new ones. You can get them from Pinball Resource, but I'm probably just going to reuse these. And once I get all those off, this rail will come right off. If you're really careful, you can get them off without damaging them. You see I got a little bent metal here, but on these I don't care, because when am I going to put new rails on a Centaur II ever in my life? Probably not. With the rails off, I DA sanded that area to make it smooth where I had filled the holes and other imperfections. And then I just painted it black. Nothing elaborate. And then I just tacked the new side rails on just to see how they looked. When you put the nails in, I suggest you pre-drill them with a 16th inch drill bit. It makes the nails go in nicer. There are some different generations in side rails. Sometimes this hole's in a slightly different spot. And the flippers, like on the Centaur II, these holes were really big, and the button was against the wood. On these, the button's against the side rail, kind of help holding it in place. It doesn't really matter which one you use. But now I'm probably going to have to take the rails off to put the new piece of wood in here. So I didn't want to nail them in too much. A neck. Took an old neck, repurposed it, and added this piece of plywood here. Laid the back box, I have a back box down there, to get the holes, and then installed 3/8 T-nuts. So now we can secure the head onto the lower cabinet. Here it is, Centaur full-size back box mounted on there, and that's actually from a Silver Ball Mania, we think. Yeah. That somebody had painted black, and the Centaur glass lines up, and the score display cutouts all line up well with the Silver Ball Mania. And we modified the cabinet with a little black paint, so it just says Centaur. I don't really want to repaint a cabinet, so this works for me.
Technically, it's the right
graphics.
It says the name of the game now.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
It has to be custom.
Yes. So how long did this take? It took probably an afternoon to do the work. A long afternoon, but an afternoon. We had the back box, though, laying around, and the insert panel. We had all that stuff, but the hard part is yet to come, or maybe not the hard part, but another part is yet to come, and that's putting in all the boards, because right now we're boardless. So I would imagine that some of the wiring harness is going to be too short to fit everything in here, but we'll make it work. To me, that's fairly easy. You just have to transplant the stuff and maybe lengthen some harnesses. But I think that's the easy part. I think the hard part's done. So this is completely doable for Joe Average, I would say, as long as you had some mild woodworking skills and Centaur back glass and a spare back box sitting around.